Hi, I'm Caroline Mitchell, canine behaviourist at Good Doggy. So for many years I've been really interested in how our dogs' lives have changed, what's changed for them, what's changed for us. And not just over the last 20 years that I've been working with dogs. This is something that's interested me from long before that. Because when we first had dogs many years ago, we never used to worry about them. We never used to think about their mental health. We never used to think about whether things should be positive or not positive. And they kind of seemed fine back then, for better or worse. We didn't have the same amount of behavior problems that we have now. We have never been more concerned about our dog's mental health as we are now. We've never worried about providing enrichment for them. So much has changed over the last 20 years, but over the last 50 years, even more. So with us putting so much effort into our dog's mental health now, why is it that they need that more than ever? Why are we seeing more behavior problems now than we ever have? Dogs in the park, if you were to sit in the park and watch the dogs now compared to 20 years ago, you're going to see much more conflict, socialization problems, dogs not responding to their owners. 20 odd years ago, 50 years ago, in some places, dogs would have just gone out in the morning, roamed about the place and come back later on. We never had these problems then. Things have obviously improved for the better, and we know more now than we have ever before. But with all of that change and all of that knowledge, why are now our dogs suffering with their mental health more than they ever have before? So one thing our dogs had more of 20, 30, 40, 50 years ago, they had more autonomy. Years and years ago, it would not have been uncommon for a family to get a puppy and leave that puppy outside in a kennel or the garden. They may have created a special run for their dog so that the dog would stay outside. Almost exclusively now, dogs live inside the house with us as pets, not just in the house. They sleep on the bed, they sleep on the sofa. And I'm not suggesting any of that's wrong, by the way, but years ago, this was just not how we used to do it. It would not have been uncommon when I first started working in dog behaviour for people to have put their dogs into rescue centres whenever they went on holiday, because it was cheaper than keeping their dogs into kennels or finding boarding for them. Home boarding was never a thing 20, 30 years ago. Not really. Now it's more probably requested than kennel type boarding for dogs. And if we go back even further than that, there'll be some vets possibly watching this video that will remember being asked to put dogs down when their owners were going on holiday. Our relationship with our dogs back then was much more pet and owner based. So our dogs were making more of their own choices during the day while they were pleasing themselves if they were put out for the day, which might have been the case in some very rural areas, especially around Ireland and places like that. They made their own choices all day. They had time to themselves. They weren't constricted by leads and by fences. They chose who they approached, who they didn't approach. They chose who they made friends with. They chose when they came home. And they may well have found some kind of food during the day. So they maybe pleased themselves and made some choices of their own. They made a lot of choices of their own. They were fully in control of their own destiny at that point. And if they didn't want to come back, then they didn't. So basically what happened is that our dogs were given much more opportunity to fulfill their own needs. But please don't misunderstand me. I don't think that that was a better time for them. It was, though, a less frustrating time for them. These days, we treat our dogs more like people than we do as pets. And we don't treat them just like random people. These dogs are the most important people in our lives. In fact, a study that was produced recently found that 12% of the people that took part in that study admitted to loving their pet more than they loved their partner. 9% admitted to loving their pet more than they loved their own kids. So Pets these days, dogs, our pet dogs, are not just our pets. They're not just companions. These dogs are our friends. They are emotional support. They are company. And this is an awful lot to put on just a puppy that's just coming into our lives. Humanizing them to this degree makes things very, very hard for them. And it makes us struggle when it comes to trying to treat them like animals. We know more about our pet dogs, the way they think, the way they feel, than we ever have before. And this is a really, really good thing. So we know that actually, emotionally speaking, dogs are very, very similar to us. They have the same basic emotions that we do. They don't necessarily experience complex emotions the same way. They don't understand jealousy or things like that in the same way. But our basic emotions, fear, anxiety, anger, excitement, those kinds of things, they experience just the same way. Their brains work the same way. They generate the same kind of responses when they become stressed or excited or fearful as a human does. So we know more about them than we ever have before. We are putting much more effort into creating enrichment for them, into making their environment really satisfying and enriching. We take much more control of them through their day. But there's a trade-off here. Today's pet dogs don't get to make choices of their own. They really, really lack self-determination, and this is really important. So these days we choose their toys, we choose the time they go for their walks, we choose where we take them, how long we're gone for, we choose what we sniff when we go to the park, we choose the friends they meet, we choose what food they have, what games we play. We force them to share their stuff. So if they're in the park and they want to keep their ball, we get angry with them if they show any kind of possession of that ball to other dogs. Our dogs are spending more time on leads than they ever have before. People are teaching recall less and less. And there's a couple of reasons for that. One of them is that it's be easier than ever to not need a recall. You know, we've got extendable leads and long lines that we can use that will keep our dogs safe to a degree. But it's not the same as getting off lead and really exploring your environment. When a dog gets off their lead and they get to find something they want to explore, it's like letting children free in the play park. You wouldn't follow them around and let them go up and down a slide where you're attached to them with a tether. You wouldn't let them go up to other kids that you specifically had chosen, but were ready to yank them away if that child turned out not to be a good choice for them. We allow our kids to make our own choices, and we used to do that with our dogs as well, but less and less over time. We are now not allowing our dogs those kind of freedoms. So when they're walking along the street or in the park and they sniff something that's very interesting to them, they might want to go and do a couple of circuits around a bush while they really check out this smell. Whatever it is that they're tracking, whatever they've discovered, maybe it's in that bush, it's gone round the bush, maybe it's no longer there. But they want to check it out. They want to learn about it. They want to see what that is. You know, this is the same as our kids finding a flower in the park and wanting to really look at it and check it out and learn about that flower and see where it's come from. Or if they spot a little creature, a little frog or something like that. Our dogs are just the same. They want to explore, but they want to explore by themselves. They don't want to be tethered to us while they're exploring. So they're losing their choices. They're losing their autonomy. And as time goes on, this is going to continue in this kind of direction until eventually they're going to have very little choices of their own. So this is causing a lot of frustration for them, not being able to choose their friends, not being able to explore, not being able to make any other choices in their life. Imagine not having any choice about anything, having your whole day managed for you and just being told, you know, that this is what's happening now, and this is what's happening now, and this is this. And if that's consistent, then that might be fine. But if it wasn't consistent, what if dinner time shifted a lot? What if your walk time was sometimes in the morning, sometimes in the afternoon? But there's no way for you to predict that and to know that. Somebody's making these choices for you all day long. That's going to become really, really frustrated. And when our dogs then start to resist the choices that we make for them, so we've decided that they can't meet this dog on the park, even though that dog and the other dog have both had a conversation already, and they've already agreed that they think that each other would be a really good match. They'd love to say hello and see, if they would play with each other and things like that, get to know each other. They've made that choice, but we've made a different choice for them. And when they resist that, we get things like lead frustration and reactive behavior and things like that. But we're labeling our dogs with behavior problems when actually having allowed them to make a choice in the first place might have meant that none of that would have ever happened. So when our dogs are resisting our choices, then we're labeling them. We're labeling them as being distracted, or we're labeling them as aggressive, or if they want to guard their food, we're saying that they are food aggressive. And none of these behaviors are good behaviors, don't get me wrong, but a lot of them are coming from a lack of choice and a lack of autonomy. And this is something that we have created with our knowledge and everything else. We want to try and keep our dogs safe. We're trying to keep everybody else safe. Roaming the streets was clearly not a good thing, so we've had to change the way that our dogs are managed. And as time, we've become more and more connected to them. We've brought them into our homes, we've brought them into our lives, and we've turned them into our best friends. So we've come this far now. Our dogs are now our best friends. They're living in our homes with us. They are our emotional support dogs. So we've brought them into our homes. Now we must start to artificially add back in this enrichment. We must create opportunities to let them make choices so they can be themselves, so they can choose things they want to do. And I don't think that means we have to let our dogs run riot all the time. We don't have to have 5 different kinds of food. We don't need to provide a menu at the beginning of the day or explain to them what's happening. But there are lots of things that we could do that would really, really help our dogs feel like they have a little bit of autonomy over what's happening to them during the day, that they have some control over their own existence. So one thing that we really need to do with our dogs is we need to stop expecting them to be the same as everybody else. Your dog is not going to be the same as your next door neighbour's dog, or the other dogs even in the litter, or other dogs that you meet on your walk. Just because one dog likes to sniff butts doesn't mean all dogs are going to like to sniff butts. Just because one dog likes one kind of dog food doesn't mean all dogs should like that dog food. Our dogs are animals first, but then they are dogs, then they are their breed, and then finally they are their name. They are Barney. And Barney is different from collies. He's different from dogs, and he's different from canines. Barney is Barney. And just like humans, Barney has his own likes and things. I like certain types of food. Other people like different kinds of food. I like playing games like Dungeons and Dragons. Some people like playing football. We all have our own choices. Barney has his own specific set of choices. He likes things the way he likes them. Some dogs are more sociable than others. Some dogs are more energetic than others. And when we start to try and label them as being animals or dogs or collies, we lose that individuality that our dogs have. So we need to stop expecting our dogs to be like collies or like Labradors. We need Barney just to be Barney. Once we know who Barney is, we can start advocating for him. We can start thinking about the kind of choices that he would make, and we can start helping him to experience those choices as if he had made them himself. As his advocate and his caregiver, once we know exactly what Barney wants in his day, we can start to provide it for him. We can give him lots of opportunities to make choices. When you're walking around the park, I don't know what your park is like, but my park that's across the road, there are loads of different options of routes around that park. Why not let Barney choose one? Why not let him choose the whole route? Does it matter? You've come to the park to walk Barney. Let him walk you around the park. If he wants to sniff things, let him go and sniff them. If he wants to make friends with this dog, but not that dog, respect that choice and let him make his choices. He knows better than anybody which dogs are going to be his, soulmates and which dogs he's going to clash with. He can tell just by walking around the park. He doesn't even need to sniff them. He can see a dog in the distance. He'll look at that dog and go, that's the kind of dog I want to be with. He looks like my absolute best friend, and I'm going to go and check him out. And he'll be getting feedback from that other dog as well at quite a distance. And hopefully that other dog will be feeling the same, and these dogs will maybe make their own choices to go meet each other. But when we expect our dogs to get on with all dogs, or when we take them away because we don't want them to meet other dogs, we're taking too many choices away. And that's going to be causing a lot of conflict. So we need to get to know Barney. We need to find out what stuff Barney likes and what kind of choices would he make. Would he go to the park even? Maybe he wouldn't. Maybe Barney, actually given a choice, would rather go for a woodland walk, or maybe he'd rather go to the beach. Or actually, maybe Barney doesn't really like other dogs at all, and he'd much rather walk around a nice quiet place where other dogs don't go. Maybe he'd be happier on a lead walk, wandering about the town, just meeting shoppers and sniffing people as they go by and looking at the shops and things like that. So when we get to know Barney, we get to know what kind of choices we should be making for him. We can learn this by not only just learning what he likes, but also watching him a lot and trying to pay attention to the stuff that he doesn't like. So we can be looking out for avoidance type behaviors. We can look out for any kind of anxiety, lip licking, trying to hide, trying to move away from things, trying not to look at things, stiffness, tail twitching. All of this kind of stuff is going to be giving us clues that Barney's not in a situation that he's comfortable with. There's never been a bigger market for enrichment activities, but a lovely big pile of long grass at the park is a free enrichment activity that your dog naturally is going to love. We don't need to provide him with snuffle mats and special puzzle boards and things like that. Hiding a few treats amongst some long grass is the ultimate in enrichment activities. Once your dog's used to getting his nose on the ground and searching for things, he can find his own things to sniff for. He'll be much more able to find scent trails from other dogs or other animals or anything else. Dogs see the world through their nose. And very often when we start to take away that kind of choice making ability and we start to do things for them, their world becomes a little bit kind of two-dimensional. They stop using their nose, they start using their eyes and ears. We can get them back onto the ground, back sniffing, learning, exploring. We can help them reduce anxiety, help them make their own choices. And there are so many benefits to getting them sniffing. So we don't need to fill our houses up with enrichment toys. The world is an enrichment toy. We just need to find ways of getting our dogs onto it. I go on and on and on about recall. Recall is probably the most important command a dog can know. Less and less dogs know a recall than ever before. Fewer dogs are walked off lead than ever before. And when this happens, dogs miss out on all of that kind of enrichment that was just naturally there, waiting for them. When we teach our dog a really reliable recall, we can let them go to these places, we can let them meet dogs, we can let them choose where they're going, we can let them choose their path. If they want to walk in a wiggly line, following all of the scents of the day, then they can, because we have that confidence that we can call them back to us if we need them to. So we can keep them safe without them being a danger to themselves or other animals or other people. Teaching a recall is vital. As soon as a dog can get off their lead, they are making lots and lots of choices per minute. And this is so essential and so important. So I urge anybody that keeps the dog on the lead or not to really consider trying to teach the dog a recall. And I have loads of ways of doing that. So check out my website, because I've always got something. I have a recall course, I do recall challenges and all that kind of stuff to try and get more and more dogs off lead, because I think it's so important. So we can see that trying to balance our needs without knowing what their needs and preferences are is really impossible. I've already talked about teaching a recall. Once you've got your dog to a place where they can get off the lead, or at least on a really long lead, so it feels a bit like they're off lead, start watching them. Watch what they do. Watch where they go. How do they move? Where do they... What bushes do they like? What kind of sniffs do they like? Do they even like long grass? Maybe they don't. Maybe they prefer the nice freshly cut grass. Or maybe they prefer the really thick, juicy grass. Perhaps they like to eat the grass. When they're on the lead, they might not have got an opportunity to check any of this stuff out. Getting them that bit of freedom gives us a chance to really watch them and see what choices are they making. What do they really like? Actually, do they even like other dogs? And if they are, what kind of dogs do they like? Look up free play. Free play is it's fantastic. It's all about choices. Look this up on the internet. But free play basically is where you create like a little wonderland. Maybe in your back garden, you're going to fill it up with so many fun things for them to explore and play with. So you might have a selection of different toys. These toys will encourage them to do different things. Maybe they encourage them to lift something up or choose something or shred something. And we can add other kinds of enrichment into this as well. Perhaps a bark box that they can dig through to find treats or toys. Maybe we put a car tire there that's been discarded, cleaned obviously, a piece, an upside down table, maybe an open umbrella. There could be some shoes, some old rolled up carpet. We could hide treats in there. You can get smell that you can scent, rabbit pee, things like that. So you could spray that to kind of encourage them to explore. So imagine all the different kinds of things that your dog might want to explore. Maybe they want to go on top of things or under things, chew things, bark at things, chewy things, crispy things, you know, all that kind of stuff. And you're just going to allow your dog to explore it all by themselves. There'll be things there they've never seen before. There'll be opportunities to play that they've not had for a long time, because we kind of just get used to what we think our dogs like. Sometimes you think, my dog will only really play with balls. He ignores all the other toys in his toy box. But after a while, get them out again. Fill your garden with all these different options and just check, does he still like the same toys? Are they still his favorite? Some dogs really love shredding up soft toys, and sadly sometimes the instinct then is to not provide them because we feel like that was a waste of time. Our dog got 2 seconds with that toy and then it was just ruined. So that was pointless and wasted, except for the fact that that 2 minutes the dog had shredding that toy up might well have been the best 2 minutes of his week. He might have enjoyed that so much that, and then just to take the toy away and say that's it because it was a waste. Was it a waste? It didn't do what you expected it to do, but he got loads of enjoyment out of it. And, you know, providing them with a constant supply of soft toys for him to shred up and de-stuff might well seem a bit extreme and a bit expensive, and it probably is, but there's loads of other things that you could do that would give them an opportunity for that. The next time you have an Amazon delivery, save the cardboard box and save all of that packing paper that comes inside it and use it like speedy wrappers to hide treats in. Give him something to shred and tear so that he can really kind of just enjoy that. That's how he likes to play. So using a free play course, it's just like a big obstacle course with everything in it that you could possibly imagine, and loads of interesting novel things as well your dog has never seen or smelled before, and just watching him explore it all in the afternoon. It's such a joy to do it. You don't have to do this very often. Every year, every couple of months, do it again. Do something different. Think of new ideas, you know, that you could put in there. If you go on to check out free play on YouTube or on the internet, you'll find loads of people have put their free play courses up. And next time I do one, I'm going to record it so that everyone can see the kind of things that I would put in it. But really, this could be as good as your imagination. The benefit of it is just to watch your dog and see how he makes choices and what choices he makes. So it's going to let you know a little bit more about him. You could give your dog choices in terms of snacks. Lots of people give their dogs a snack when they come home from a walk, or at night time, maybe in the supper time. Give him a choice. Have 2 or 3 different options and hold them out for him. Let him pick his own snack. You could keep all of the toys in the house. Once you know the kind of toys that he wants, keep them all tucked away. Get out a couple. Let him choose his toy for the day. You're letting him make choices on his walks. You can provide him with a variety of places to retreat to. Dogs actually often quite like to retreat to under things. Sometimes people think their dog's being very anxious and being very worried if they're hiding under things, but this is really the terrier way. Terriers love to be inside things, under things. They like to have something above them, so they especially take to crate training. They like those kind of domes that we buy for cats, you know, because they've got a lid on, or they might like to hide underneath coffee tables and things like that. So providing lots of different types of places for your dog to sleep, not just a few beds scattered around. Think about choice of the type of place, something that's under something, something that's on top of something, you know, something very, very snuggly. So it's not about where do I sleep. There's other elements involved there too. So we're watching our dogs. We're learning more about them. We're watching their behavior. Their behavior is always trying to communicate something to you. Their dog will always be trying to communicate with how they're behaving, what they're doing, what their body looks like. They use body language an awful lot. And we need to pay a lot more attention to the messages that they're giving us by the way they're behaving. And not just when they're getting big and loud and shouting and lunging. We need to be watching the very early behaviour, the bit where the dog's gone a little bit stiff. Maybe he's staring a bit. Maybe his tail has dropped slightly. His shoulders have stiffened up, you know. Maybe his ears have come up. Those are all signs that your dog is trying to tell you something about the experience that he's having. So keep an eye out for all of that. Once you know all of this and you've got to know him perfectly, then start making the choices that he would make and give him some of his own. Thanks for watching. Take care for now. Bye bye.